We'll take Kankambodu's question from the sports, I believe. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. Before I go to my question, I'd like to draw your attention to the sad issue of the national amputee team. They apparently won the African Amputee Championship. They are owed per diems and bonuses and have not been paid. And they feel very neglected. And we all know that the strength of every nation is determined by how well they treat the vulnerable in society. In your manifesto, you talk about building 6 new stadiums in the 6 new regions. Currently, we have 5 major national stadiums, and only one, that's the Kumasi Sports Stadium, is fit enough to host a FIFA or CAF organized senior national team game. So I want to know what motivated that decision. And since we are even struggling to maintain 5, how well can we do if we have 11? Thank you.
Thank you, Kankambodu. We'll do. So, give the microphone to Ahini, please. It's right there. Please give the microphone to her. From the Ashanti region.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Ohinini Adazwa, Sompa TV, Sompa Radio, Kumasi.
Ja, Rastafari.
Selassie, I. In your manifesto, page 24C, you did mention something about flat rate. So let's say somebody import car engines and somebody second-hand clothing. Are they going to pay the same amount? I think we need better and further particulars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ohini. So, that's Ohini.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Dache Hene Nanayawa Sante from Onuya FM. Your Excellency, respectfully, there is a saying that we should cry our own cry. You made a promise to teachers that you give them the opportunity of having cars. We know our minimum wage and where it stands, and the tripartite property view it to 18.44 cities. The standard of living in Ghana is going high. Your Excellency, what will you do for 90% of people who are seated here today to carry your message on? They are journalists. Thank you.
So what's your question? For what will you do for the journalist? Is that the question? Okay. Otek. Mr. Buesiako from Otek, Ashanti. Please let's hear Mr. Buesiako from Ashanti. Yes.
Your Excellency, I want to congratulate my MP, Honorable Dr. Opoki Prempeh. Honorable, Your Excellency, you highlighted 14 key promises in your manifesto, but none of them were apportioned timelines on it. So how can you hold you accountable if not? Because it seems to become mere political rhetorics. Thank you.
Okay, Ibrahim. Ibrahim from GH1.
Thank you very much,
GH1.
Your Excellency. My name is Ibrahim Al-Hassan, GH1 TV, Star FM. Your Excellency, of course, forgive me for taking you back in 2016, when you were on the campaign trail, you had this declaration, and it's a very famous one. Parents are suffering, students are suffering, traders are suffering, pensioners are suffering, drivers are suffering, contractors are suffering, civil servants are suffering, farmers are suffering, fishermen are suffering, men are suffering, women are suffering, children are suffering, and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering. May I know the status of suffering of these individuals today?
I'll take Vanessa from Metro TV Accra, then I'll come to Adinkakam. So please get a microphone to Andy, and then Vanessa would speak. And then I'll come to you later. But Vanessa, Andy, then.
Thank you. My name is Vanessa Idutumboateng from Metro TV. Mr. Vice President, you will remember this quote: if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rates will expose you. And as at the time you were making this statement, a dollar to CD was 3 cedis and above, or about 3 cedis, 4 cedis, right? Thank you. 2024, a dollar to a cedi is 15 Ghana cedis, about 15 Ghana cedis. Okay, over 15 Ghana cedis, thank you. How do I explain this to my mother, a cocoa seller, that in 2014, the fundamentals were weak? In 2024, where a dollar is now 15 cedis, the fundamentals are not weak, but the prices of goods and services are high today. Thank you.
Okay. Rapoko, please. No. Yes, let Abna come and then you come. I want to hear more of the ladies at the point.
Mebacho ye frame Abna Pokua ahwini me wadum TV ene adum FM. Na masebisa yes ba ko kanka beka didi kan. Mebacho pese ye share Dr. Bawumia ne hihye fofra wode ebeko etia galamsey ayadia so man ko ache eno achi so Afram Plains 2016 MPP share call for bo esemo the bridge ebeto Afram nsu so me pese me hu na ho hihye ya kodun Kokos Sports Stadium so me pese me hu no ba bi atebia no ewo asatena medase.
Thank you. We'll take Nanaya, then His Excellency would give the responses. Please go ahead.
Good evening, His Excellency. I would like my question to be answered in Twi, but I'll ask it in English.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll ask it in Twi. I just want to know, say, in the first 100 days, if Ghanaians decide to vote for you, what would be the things you would want to tackle first?
Thank you. Let's take the responses and then we'll come back to the questions. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. I think the first question is looking at the national amputee team who are owed some allowances. So I'll talk to the sports minister here to get the facts on the issue, and if that is the case, I will try to expedite their payment. So I'll when I leave here, I'm going to raise that issue. There is also the issue of 6 new stadia that, and only one of the existing 5 is being maintained. I think that is a very good question. One of the problems we have is the lack of maintenance of our pitches. I met with the Black Stars in Kumasi before their last game there, and when we met, the coach and the players were very clear that what they really needed, and this is why I've put it in our manifesto, was an international standard pitch. You know, that the pitches that we have are difficult to play on, and we needed international standard pitches. So, in fact, in the manifesto, we need to do it. And I believe that we need professional management in terms of the maintenance of these pitches. and we need to train people and also bring in the people with the knowledge. And so we are going to do that, because we just build the pitches and there is very little maintenance of the pitches and the management of the pitches. So I think this is going to be one of the things that we're going to do. The building of the 5 other stadia, as I said, we've made that commitment actually as far back as 2019. That with all these new regions that are coming on board, we will have to build stadia for them to encourage sports. And I believe that we've done quite a few already in terms of the multi-purpose sports stadia. We are doing 10, we've completed 6, 4 are almost done, and we are going to do another 5. So, I mean, the record is there that we've done 10. I think that we can do another 5 without much of a problem. Then the question came on the flat rate and whether second-hand clothing and spare parts will be paying the same rate. No, I think that the categories will be different. And with the flat rate, what we want to do is to bring a lot more predictability in import duty payment. At the moment, there isn't predictability, and there's a lot of discretion that seems to come in from time to time. And so what we are saying is that we're going to bring in a flat rate in cities. So if you are bringing in spare parts, and there's a 40-foot container of spare parts, you will know exactly what the duty is for the spare parts, say 20,000 cedis or 15,000 cedis or 30,000 cedis. It's a flat rate. So when the 40-foot container arrives of the spare parts, then you know you'll pay 40,000. If you are bringing in second-hand clothing, and that is attracting 20,000 cedis duty, you will know beforehand that it will come. It's not that it will arrive and then the price will change, because they will say the exchange rate has changed, so you pay more. But it will be a flat rate. So there's not going to be any confusion. Chicken will attract a different rate from, spare parts will attract a different rate from rice, will attract a different rate from second-hand clothing. But you will know beforehand, before the goods before you import the goods, they will all be published. And so that we get away from, these under-invoicing and misclassification issues. These are really hampering revenue collection. Many importers invest time in misclassifying. They'll bring in chicken and they'll say it is fish or something. But the misclassification and so on, we will have to deal with that. Then the issue about cars for teachers and what we want to do for journalists and all of that. I really believe that one of the major problems, and we address this in the manifesto, that hampers workers and livelihoods in our country is the fact that we operate a cash-based system. Unlike in the advanced world where they operate a credit-based system. So ab initio, life is much harder if you are a teacher in Ghana versus if you're a teacher in the US or the UK. Even if you are paid the same amount every month, the teacher in the UK will consume probably 5 to 6 times more goods than you in Ghana. Why? Because they are able to obtain credit and pay over time. And so, but we in Ghana here, we have to accumulate cash for whatever we want to buy. If you want to buy a car and the car is costing 100,000 or 150,000, you have to look for 150,000 to pay for the car. But if you were in the UK, you'll probably be paying 1,000 every month to pay for the car, or much less. But so your salary goes along a much longer way. So one of the things that we are bringing in as far as our manifesto is concerned is to move Ghana from a cash-based system to a credit-based system. It's very, very important because the reason why the credit-based system works in the advanced countries because they are able to compute credit scores for everybody. You know, credit scoring is key to a credit-based system because it then assesses the risk of any borrower in terms of borrowing, money for a fridge or a car or a TV or whatever. So the credit scoring becomes very key. 14 years ago, I wrote a book on monetary policy and financial sector reform in Africa. This was in 2010. And in this book, I was making the case for why Ghana and Africa generally, we needed to move towards the credit-based systems. And the reason why is to really bring down the stress on living in our system. The reason why they are able to do what the credit system in the advanced countries is because the databases exist for the computation of the credit scores. So the what you need, a unique identity that exists, address, it exists, financial inclusion, a bank account where it exists. So when we came into office, I was very clear in my mind where we wanted Ghana to go. We needed to put in place the digital address system, the Ghana card, which we have done. We needed to put in place the address system. When we looked at the address system, I realized that it was going to be very difficult to go with what we had before, street addresses and so on. So I proposed that we go with digital address systems. I mean, at the time, only one country in the world, Mongolia, had a digital address, a wholesale digital address system. Only one country in the world. But I said, look, Ghana should move in that direction because we can leverage on GPS technology and have a digital address system. Now, we have been able to get a digital address system, and we are the second country in the whole world to have a wholesale digital address system. Every part of Ghana, we can have a digital address. Now, then the third leg of this to allow us to get to credit scoring was to make sure most Ghanaians would have a bank account so that your financial transactions can be scored and monitored and so on. But when we came in, I realized that, of course, very small percentage of people had bank accounts, but a lot of people had mobile money accounts, and so I made the point that the key to get everybody financially included was to have that interoperability between the mobile money account and the bank account. And so we were able to do this mobile money interoperability. And so today, Ghana now has all the elements. All the elements are now in place for Ghana to move to a credit-based system. All the elements are now in place. And so we expect credit score. In fact, interestingly, when I made the point that individual credit scoring doesn't yet exist in Ghana, people were actually arguing, saying that wasn't true, but that is absolutely true. So we are going to begin, proper wholesale individual credit scoring, which would then provide us a basis so that people can buy their cars. And someone was talking about the local producers and all of that. Once they know that we can offer this to teachers and they can pay overtime, or to journalists and they can pay overtime, and they don't have to bring all the cash at once, then life will be much more bearable to all of us. So my expectation is that the credit scoring system, things are moving much faster than I expected. It's now Manifesto, we're moving to it, but I think that it's likely to begin before the end of this year because of where we are now. I expect to launch it reasonably soon because of where we are now. We've got everything in place, but that will fundamentally change everything for Ghana. Currently in sub-Saharan Africa, it's only one country that has a credit scoring system and a credit base. That is South Africa. Ghana will be, before the end of this year, the second country in sub-Saharan Africa with a credit-based system. But it will bring down the pressure on all of our workers once you enter into that. Then there was a question that went on the lack of timelines for the manifesto in terms of promises and so on. I think that when you are going for an election, you are going for an election for a 4-year term initially, isn't it? Yeah, so your promises have to be in line with that term of office, right? That this is what I want you to elect me to do these things, right? But I think that we have a pretty good record in terms of honoring our promises. We've done some work to look at our 2016 manifesto, what proportion of those promises we've honored, and it has been 83% of the 2016 manifesto has been honored, 83%. And then when you look at the 2020 manifesto, 2020, even in the midst of all these crises, we are fulfilling, or we fulfilled 80% of our 2020 manifesto. My opponent in his 2012 manifesto, when he became president, he only fulfilled 28%. We've done the numbers. 28% of his 2012 manifesto. 280 promises. He didn't fulfill 203 of the 280 promises. He only fulfilled 28% of his promises. So I think that we have a better record as far as fulfilling promises. And when I put something down, I usually have a good idea how I'm going to get it done. And so that is I think, something that we are going to look at. I think that the issue has come about suffering. And I remember very well, my statements. Teachers are suffering, and doctors are suffering, and journalists are suffering, and everybody is suffering in 2016, which was the case actually, in that regard. But I think that we've moved on significantly since 2016, and we can point to a few things that we have, because at the end of the day, you reduce suffering broadly by creating jobs so that you give people something to do, or you bring in some social interventions to ameliorate the problems, the hardships that are there. So you need to look at what we have done. We've created at least 2.1 million jobs. Per capita income in CD terms has gone up almost more threefold. In dollar terms, per capita income from 2016 has gone up from 1,978 to 2,436. So GDP has gone up, per capita income has also gone up. As I said, we've kept all public sector workers employed. We didn't lay off anyone during the COVID, and we have done that, and we've kept the lights on. We suffered so much from doomsday. Everybody was suffering from doomsday, but we have kept the lights on for 8 years. Teacher trainees were suffering. We've restored their teacher trainee allowances. Nursing trainees were suffering. We've restored their allowances. People who were using the NHIS had major issues. The people who had sickle cell were suffering because the hydroxyurea, which was really needed and wasn't covered by the NHIS. Today it is covered by the NHIS. Today kidney dialysis is covered, as well as childhood cancer was also covered. You also see that for the people, the issue of rent advance, the National Rental Assistance Scheme has come in to really help in that. During COVID, we gave free water for a year, free electricity. For people in the rural areas and remote areas, we've brought in medical drones to deliver medicines, vaccines, blood across 2,694 health facilities. And even recently, when there was flooding because of rain in the Afram Plains, we had to get the drones to take examination papers over there, which were not initially. Parents have now had the benefit of free SHS for 8 years, have had the benefit of free TVET, and therefore the suffering of a lot of parents in paying fees has also reduced. School feeding, when we were coming in 2016, only 1.6 million children benefited from school feeding. Today, 4 million children are benefiting from school feeding, more than double. We have also absorbed the examination fees for all students, for BEC and WACSI examinations. And then, as I said before, we've doubled the number of student loan recipients from 30,000 to 58,000. We've introduced the no guarantor student loans. A lot of students who were suffering, looking for guarantors, now just need their Ghana card and they will get it. You know, so we've done quite a bit. We brought in one constituency, one ambulance, and we procured the ambulances for many of our constituencies or many of our districts. And also, if you look at the small and medium enterprises who had major problems in accessing funding, we've provided funding over the last 8 years to 444,000 SMEs, 1.4 billion Ghana cedis, which has been quite significant by any account and very historic in that regard. So I think that yes, the suffering is there, but we've done a lot of social interventions to ameliorate that suffering. It's not gone, but at least we can point to things that have gone in to reduce the suffering of our people. I mean, even renewing National Health Insurance card was a problem. Just to renew it, many people had to go and sleep. I know in my constituency, people had to go to the NHI office and sometimes sleep for 3 days before they could renew National Health Insurance membership. But today, you just sit in your home and renew. Today, you sit in your home and buy electricity credit. You don't need to take trotro or taxi and go somewhere else to do it. So we've done quite a bit to reduce the suffering of people, even though, of course, it is not complete. We still have more to do, and we'll continue. So the other question, which is a nice one, Vanessa was asking, if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you, which is a truism. It was true then, and it's still true today. It's an economic truism that once the fundamentals weaken, you will see the impact on the exchange rate fundamentally. And when we talk about many of these fundamentals. You're talking about the GDP growth rate, you're talking about the fiscal balance, you're talking about the exchange, the reserves, level of the reserves that you have, inflation, and so on. When we came into office, during the first term before we hit COVID, between 2017 and 2019, you saw the fundamentals pretty much strengthening by all accounts. And the exchange rate depreciated in those 3 years by less than 5%. That was the lowest depreciation in the currency for 28 years. 28 years. That was the lowest depreciation of the currency. I think we went up, even after COVID, we didn't get that high a depreciation. But the biggest shock for the economy came in 2022. All hell was breaking loose in 2022. Inflation, 54% as at November 2022. Exchange rate had depreciated at 54%. And of course, you could look at the fundamentals were in trouble at that time. You saw the fiscal deficit going up, you saw inflation going up, growth declining. And so for me, it wasn't surprising, even though it was shocking, the extent to which the exchange rate went. So the point that we are making is that once the fundamentals weaken, you will get it shown in the exchange rate. And this is why we have seen that recently, even though we're depreciating in November at 54%, this year the depreciation has been 18.6% so far, right? We're looking at about 18.6%. So you're looking at a situation this year. Why is the depreciation lower? Because the fundamentals have strengthened. The fiscal deficit is under 5%. We are running a primary surplus. Growth has gone up first quarter to 4.7%, higher than projected. The reserves are increasing, and the Gold for Oil program is helping. So as the fundamentals and inflation today is around 20%, so there's been a strengthening of the fundamentals, and you've also seen more relative exchange rate stability. In all of this, and I want you to take this away. When I looked at what was happening in 2022, the 54% depreciation of the cedi, it was very scary. In fact, in 2022, this economy was on the verge of collapse, because you saw our reserves declining very steeply. The exchange rate was blowing up, inflation was up, and my worry at that time, frankly, was that I could see this country moving towards Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was what was clearly in my mind at that time, because you saw protests in Sri Lanka. They had no fuel. Dumsor was there. And when you saw the way our reserves were moving in 2022, we were heading right in that direction, that we're going to get queues on the street. We couldn't buy fuel. We couldn't pay for so many things. And it was in that context that I came up with two policies. One was the Gold for Oil policy and the gold purchase program of the Bank of Ghana. Because when I looked at it, sometimes when they say necessity is the mother of invention, because when I looked at it, we were headed for disaster, But I made the case. I looked at the numbers, and I said, well, how are we going to get foreign exchange to buy fuel in this decline in reserves. And then I looked at gold. I said, let's take a look at gold. I looked at the reserves of gold that we had, and it was 8.7 tons. 8.7. That is from independence to 2022. Our gold reserves were 8.7 tons. 8.7. I mean, when you look at the US, they had 8,000 tons in gold reserves. The UK, Germany, France, you know, all above 2,000, 3,000 tons. And Ghana, the largest gold producer in Africa, had 8.7 tons. So I said, this is something that we need to change. And so Ghana needs to start, because the thing about gold for us is that we don't have to export anything to get gold. If we have cities, we'll buy gold right here locally. So we can use our cities to buy gold without needing to export cocoa or oil or diamonds or timber. We just buy the gold locally. That is what we have that many countries don't have. It's just something that many countries don't have that opportunity to do so. So I then came up with that idea that let's do, instead of, since we don't have forex at the bank to pay for oil, let's use gold. And therefore we went into this gold for oil and gold purchase program for reserves. And what is very, very interesting, frankly, without this gold for oil, the gold purchase program, this economy would have collapsed. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. Why do I say so? In the last couple of years, Bank of Ghana, under the gold purchase program, has been able to buy $5 billion of gold. $5 billion of gold. Think about it. We've gone to the IMF to look for $3 billion, which is going to be paid over 3 years. And this is why we are going through it. But locally, we've been able to buy $5 billion. And this is why there are no queues for petrol. This is why Dumso has not happened in Ghana. Because otherwise, where would you have gotten $5 billion from your reserves? Where would you have gotten $5 billion from your reserves to keep up all the payments you needed to make? So that has been, for us, the game changer. And so the pilot that we are seeing with the gold purchase program and the gold for oil program, I want to institutionalize it going forward. And this is why, by the grace of God, when I am president next year, we are going to institutionalize this. Someone asked me, why is it that the French West African countries have not seen depreciations in their currency? Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and all of these. I said, well, they are anchored. The currency is anchored to the euro through the French franc. So they are anchored. Unfortunately for Ghana, we don't have an anchor. There is no anchor for the city. So what I am going to introduce, what I want to institutionalize, is something that we have learned from this crisis. You will not find it in any textbook. Maybe some people will now write it in a textbook. You won't find it in a textbook. It's not in a textbook. Because what I'm going to do is fairly simple, as I said, but we have had to learn about it. Because what we are going to do is to say that if you want foreign exchange, and we've tried it already, the pilot, with some of the big companies. One big company had 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. They wanted to externalize 3.1 billion Ghana cedis. And they were looking for foreign exchange. Can you imagine the impact on our market? If someone comes out with 3.1 billion cedis looking for dollars. So they were trying to talk to the Bank of Ghana and all of that. So their chairman flew into the country and came to see me and said, we are having these problems and we have to externalize our dividends and all of that. We have 3.1 billion and we are looking for dollars. So looking for dollars from all the banks and all of that. So I listened to them and then I asked, will you take gold? They said, oh, sure, gold is forex. That is not a problem. So I called the governor and I said, look, why don't we put this 3.1 billion through the gold purchase program? And guess what? It was done virtually overnight, and their money was given to them. So essentially, what we're saying is that the demand for the dollars, you bring your cedis. We have the gold. There's no doubt. I mean, the gold is there. I mean, we have 5 billion ounces even not yet explored, as the Geological Survey Authority has told us. That's $10 trillion. Right? So bring your cedis, we buy the gold, give you your forex. It's that simple. So your demand for the forex will be met by an equal supply of gold, and Ghana will see stability of the currency long term. So we're looking for a simple solution to a long-term stability for the cedi. And that is what we are bringing in, and that is what is happening. What I'll tell you, and I'm sure maybe some of you have heard, is that other countries have started coming to Ghana to learn about our gold purchase program. Yeah, other countries have started coming. The Bank of Ghana is inundated with requests for people to come and learn. As I said, this is not in textbooks, but this is what we are doing. So I think that the fundamentals ultimately has an impact on the exchange rate, but the crisis that we have gone through has now made us to think a bit outside the box and bring in this new solution. Now, Abna Pukia was asking about Galamsey and what we are doing about it. And yo. Any maminka chui kakra. Galamsey, no, asamin ba kakra kakra. Ye pese yasasa nshisha ewo ye mining sector. Say Galamsey for ni permit licenses yɛde ma wɔ mu yɛbɛsesa saa nhyehyɛeɛ no yɛbɛyɛ na easy mmerɛ paa ma obiara a ɔyɛ Galamsey ɛnɛ obɛnya mining license ɔde bɛyɛ adwuma. So yɛde saa mmara no ba district committees, traditional leaders through the Minerals Commission ɔmo bɛnya licenses, ɔmo bɛ register ne ɔmo Ghana card. Then yɛbɛyɛ community mining schemes. Geological Survey Authority bɛhwehwɛ ɔmo survey no na ɔmo ehu sɛ aha na gold no wɔ, aha na gold no. Ɛnɛ sɛdeɛ ɔmo to gold no ɛyɛ trial and error. Wobɛkɔ akɔto ha woenya na wakɔ ha woenya na wosɛe asase no. But yɛde data ba na yɛka nkyerɛ mo sɛ Galamsey foɔ or small scale miners ahana gold no wo inti ye hihye community mining scheme wo ho amamo monko ho montoto omo ya na ya to omo gold no ade akọ Bank of Ghana inti san hihye no na ye de ba me be hihye Minerals Development Bank ama mining small scale mining sector no so said the Agric Development Bank ye hihye no for equiafo no a new Minerals Development Bank, ama small scale miners, na aboa omo no menya equipment. The common use, are there friend common user facilities? If it be a 2 gold now, now the shemu na a high percentage of gold amount. Sana yere betuho ama obia in the community mining schemes so that omubinya more gold from their activities. Enti san share basua mimi gidi say galamsey no ebetwa so yensizi obia excavator na yashino na or whatever. Sa de no ebetwa so na yedi akọ. I heard about Afram Plains and then Koko. I don't know. I'm missing the Afram Plains question. The bridge.
Yeah.
Yes, bridge.
And Koko Sports Stadium 2020. Mukase mo besi ehun hwe. Medase.
Yes. So the Afram Plains Bridge, I think, is one of the bridges that we are working under with the Korean facility. It's one of the projects that we've presented to be done under the Korean facility. When we say the Koreans have given us a grant and a concessional loan of $2 billion, and we've had to take a number of projects to them for funding. I think that bridge over there is one of them. And then the Nkoko Sports Stadium, I have to follow up with the minister on that one. I can't give you a direct answer on that. Then the question came, the first 100 days, what would you do? I'm definitely not taking a honeymoon. We are going to get straight to work to put things in place. I think that for me, the focus is on jobs. And so you have to put in the budget as quickly as possible so that you can make sure that the tax amnesty regime comes into place, the flat tax regime comes into place, so that by the time of your first budget in March, these things, the Ghana First, Buy Ghana First policy, that we put it in and pass the law so that we can get the Ghana First policy. The e-levy will go because we have to focus on digitalization of the economy, and so we need to take out the e-levy as well. So these are some of the things that I believe that we can do very, very, very quickly as we come in, within the first 100 days. But I think that we are going to be very, very hard at work to look at things that get business moving. The tariff structure for the businesses, commercial versus residential, we have to look at it. The flat rate regime has to come in immediately. Those things that will get business moving very quickly to create the jobs are the things that we are going to do immediately so that we are serious about business and serious about job creation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.